Have you heard about Anchor? Well, it's one of the easiest ways to create a podcast. Not only is it 100% free, but it has a variety of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or a computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast to other sites such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many others for you. And Anchor even allows you to make money from your podcast without a required minimum listenership. So whether you've been in the podcasting game for a long time or you're completely new to it, Anchor is so user-friendly that it's basically your one-stop shop for making a podcast. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You're listening to First Fossil. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first fossil. Hello and welcome to First Fossil, a show where we learn together how to take that first fossil toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candice Olushola, and today's special guest is a millionaire. Not a millionaire. But we can speak it into existence.
She's gonna be a millionaire.
She gonna be a millionaire. We're gonna speak it into existence. Lord, hold me together. Okay, so today's special guest, she's a millennial visionary, speaking the millions into existence. So we're going to hold on to that girl. She's also an international blog curator, and girl, I can't read today. Give me a second. Let me get my words.
Great.
Let me get my words together. Okay. Today's special guest is a millennial visionary, international blog curator, and emotional thought leader. She has a variety of skills ranging from a background as an educator to event coordinator and luxury travel consultant. She's a good friend of mine, and she's from all the way from down under. Please welcome my girl, Shauna Ryan. Hey, girl. Good morning to ya.
Good morning.
Yes, because girl, it is natty night time for me. So I love that you's having the breakfast and I just finished the dinner. So yes, girl.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely, I had to have you on the podcast because you just have your life story is just so amazing, and people need to be inspired by all the things Shauna Ryan. So I just thought it only made sense to have you here. So
Happy to be here.
yes, man, look at you, girl. And you look so comfy today, so I just had to throw that out there. We just trying to stay comfy in these streets. Stay comfy.
Tell the people I look real cute right now. I'm in my dressing gown. I'm in my Icelandic headband.
Yes,
listen,
girl.
I'm not on camera, so
Popping. Rocking and popping in whatever you wear during quarantine. Hey.
Yes.
that quarantine outfit. Yes, girl.
This is my uniform. I have a work uniform, and this is it. I'm on camera, and I have like business on top, ISO on the bottom. And then when I'm not on camera, it's just a full ISO look.
Yes, girl. You better claim it. Don't be ashamed of it. Hey. I'm not mad at it, so I receive all of it, girl. So,
thank you.
Why don't you tell the gente a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently I work in social media, which is handy considering the global climate. My work hasn't been too impacted. I am a school teacher as well, so I do like substitute teaching sometimes, and then I was also working at a winery, I was the pointing person, so I'd be like, that way to the toilet.
Pointing person.
I mean, that was my
official title. Love it.
Well, it was actually concierge, but I like to call it the pointing person.
No, I totally prefer that.
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes it fun.
Oh yeah.
So I don't have that job anymore, so I'm back to just working at home full-time, and it's cool because I've been able to spend time playing a little bit more. I've picked up watercolor painting, which I think probably 50% of the female global population may have done that.
You're probably right.
That or baking banana bread. So I went with the painting. But I digress. I work in social media. I have a women's empowerment brand called Strong Woman, where I was taking photos of strong women and sharing their stories on social media, which I say was, I've put it on hold for a little bit just while I went through a growth period, went through a transition period, went through a refining period. And Strong Woman is a part of me. So it's never truly stopped. It's just, I've focused on myself. So there's that. I run social media for a couple of clients, and I've more recently become a co-host for a singing competition that is being run here in Australia on Instagram. Kind of like The Voice meets Idol meets any other talent show, but it's on Instagram. So I'm excited about starting that as well. So that's kind of what I do, but essentially the core of who I am is to bring people joy and be a light. So I've just spent since I've walked into adulthood, I've spent that time trying to find what that looks like for me, and now I'm here.
I love that. That's so great. It sounds like every millennial's like trajectory of life. Like, I'm being my best self, and then I'm also finding myself while also helping other people find themselves, and we just be happy along the ride. Like, that is how us millennials work. That's how we tick. So
it's true.
We just want everyone to be their best selves while we also discover who we are. So that's really cool. I love all the things that you've done, and it's just amazing how all of these different things have lined up for you. So why don't you explain what is a significant first Basso experience for you? Like, when did this start? What season of life? Are you in the middle of this first Basso experience? Just expound on your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you sent me across the brief for the podcast, I was like, oh, definitely this is the start of it. Wait, no, but this could be the start of it. Wait, no, but this could be the start of it. So I guess I look at my life, and every single step that I've taken has been in preparation and paving the way for where I am today. So I guess the first Basso moment would be back in 2016 when I left my full-time teaching job to do Strong Woman full-time. So yeah. I just finished studying. I just had my own classroom. I'd been teaching for 6 months, and as a first-year teacher, it's hard enough getting a job here in Australia as like straight out of university. I was very fortunate to be offered a job, and 6 months in, I quit, which is a big no-no in terms of first-year teaching. I will give you a bit of background. I studied teaching not because it's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, but because I needed to spread my wings and get out of my hometown. So I moved to the other side of Australia and studied, and I knew that I'd be a great teacher, but I knew that I was going to be showing my purpose during those 4 years while I was studying. Some would say there are other cheaper ways to find your purpose other than getting a uni debt, but here we are. So I got a teaching job, and 6 months in, I realized that I really needed to put more time, energy, effort into Strong Woman, and that truly was what my purpose was at that time. So I walked into my headmaster's office, and she just looked at me and she said, "You're about to leave us, aren't you?" And I had not told her anything. There was no context. She said, "Oh no, I have a pretty great relationship with God, so he's already told me what's up." I was like, okay, good to know. Which, saying that, the first week of my teaching job, she came up to me and she said, "I just want you to know that I have been told that your season as a teacher is going to be short, and your season at our school is going to be even shorter, but you have my blessing. We are honoured that you would have our school as a stepping stone." She didn't know anything about my life at all. She did a job interview with me and asked me why I wanted to be a teacher, and I was like, "Oh, I love children," which I do. But this woman was very in tune spiritually, so she just kind of helped create a space where I didn't feel guilty. Yeah, so I left my teaching job 6 months into a contract, which you don't break a contract as a first year teacher. It's just not on. But I did. And I didn't actually have a plan. I knew that I wanted to inspire women. I knew that I wanted to make Strong Woman my baby and monetize it. But I actually didn't have any great structure for that, which on one hand, I could say that was a great leap of faith. The other hand, I could be like, that was a really stupid move because there wasn't actually a safety net. I kind of labeled it. I don't know what your listeners' faith journey is, whether they believe in God, the universe, Mother Nature, whatever it looks like, a higher power. I kind of labeled my bold move as a faith move. But if I'm honest, I didn't have full faith in what I was doing. I just wanted to make a statement. And I was like, I'm going to see if I can make it. Now, I did that and I actually got sick. I found out I had a brain tumor a week before I finished teaching. And so I had to go on these medical treatments and I wasn't able to work, wasn't able to make money. And so that kind of put a spanner in the works. And that, I guess, was the first pothole in the road that I decided to take in terms of diving into being an entrepreneur and diving into my purpose. And I thought, oh, well, this is over. I guess I'm not supposed to do Strong Woman because, this is such a big setback. But looking back, it really was just a pothole. It wasn't the end of the road. Saying that, though, it's been a running theme since 2016 to look after my health. And that is, and I'll allude to it and I'll speak about it after, is essentially one of my biggest lessons over the last 4 years has been that I need to listen to my body and honor that. But yeah, so essentially I quit my job and became an inspirational speaker and a blog curator and did all these things, was battling an illness. That set me back and really I had to focus on myself and realizing that there were a lot of things that I had to refine before I went onto a global stage, I guess, with Strong Woman. And as time went on, I was introduced to phenomenal people. I met who now is my best friend, and she basically was a mirror to me and helped me realize that I needed to heal a lot of parts of myself before I could step into a space where I had the authority to speak into other women's lives. So that happened. I was dealing with a lot of body image stuff, I didn't have a lot of confidence, body confidence, as well as just confidence in me as a person. So I have spent the last 4 years unpacking a lot of untruths, basically not demolishing a house, but removing all the walls and the windows and doors and things like that and just being left with the frame and now having a look at what was used to build the house that is me. Obviously, that's a metaphor. Yeah. And using that, what was once the walls, to rebuild and restructure. So it's been a really beautiful journey, but it's been really challenging. For me, one of the big things was fear, because I knew that I was called to do something great. I knew that I have known since I was a very small child that I was supposed to be a light to people. Now, the scale of that, I don't think I really understood. Obviously, now I have a platform. I have connections to some highly influential people globally in political sectors, in Hollywood, in so many spaces where I guess I couldn't fathom in 2016. But now I am where I am, and I've done all of the work. I feel prepared to go into rooms and spaces with authority and say, hey, this is how I want to exist, and this is how I would love to help you exist. But as I said, 2016, and as a child, I knew I wanted to be a light. I just didn't know how, where, who, how much. So it's been fascinating just navigating that.
Wow. And that's relatable too. Just like knowing that you have something that you want to do and you're driven to do it, but realizing that who you see yourself to be is, if you don't figure that out, it's going to not make whatever it is that makes you tick completely authentic. because you're almost in this, I'm trying to empower people in a way that I haven't been able to do in myself.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm going through that. I've been going through that experience for about the same amount of time as you. Like the whole, I want to empower people and I want to make people feel like they're their best selves, but I don't feel like my best self at all.
Yeah,
At
absolutely.
all.
And I think I had reached a stage where I thought that I had done the work. It was probably by the middle of the start of 2017. I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm really good. And in the middle of 2017, I had the floor literally taken out from underneath me. Somebody who was my mentor and who was a very close friend, I found out was not the person that I had thought. They had essentially taken advantage of me financially quite a lot. And I had placed a lot of value on that person. I placed a lot of value on that person's opinion of me. And I realized that I was basing my identity on that person's perception of me rather than taking hold of my own identity,
Wow.
my own thoughts, and standing firm and true in that. So that, although it was one of the most horrific experiences of my life, because this wasn't just a newfound friend. There was a life that was lived in the years that we were connected. But that made me realize that I cannot base my identity on what I think somebody else thinks of me. I was left quote unquote alone. I still had friends and family, but I felt very isolated. So then I had to really go back to square one and think, who am I? And this person had abusive tendencies, like emotionally abusive tendencies. So I didn't realize that a backhanded compliment that that was followed with something toxic or mean was actually damaging. And so becoming aware of that and becoming conscious to the fact that I really I'd given somebody else authority to, I don't know, mold who I was in the world, which is dangerous. So, and as I said, I was existing out of a place of fear because I thought, if I act this way, I won't be well received, or if I do this, I won't succeed. Or so I realized that fear had to go, and that for me has been a running theme, especially when you leave the comfort of a full-time job, when you do something that nobody in your family has ever done before, when you do something that nobody that you know in your friends group has done before. There's a lot of fear. On top of that, I'm a cautious person. So caution and fear kind of get intertwined. But I realized that fear does keep us safe, but it also can push us into living a mediocre life. And I was kind of met with a decision at a crossroads because I was taken advantage of quite severely financially. I had to go back to teaching full time because I had to, pay for my life because I was generous and that person ran away with the monies. So I had to then go back into a full-time job, which I felt like I was stepping back. And that also was a massive hurdle because, and I'm going to speak to people who are taking risks, career risks, entrepreneurial risks, creative risks. A lot of the time, if we do something and then it doesn't work and we have to go back to square one, or we have to go back to what we've done before, or we have to go get a job again because we can't afford the lifestyle that we've chosen. I realized that it's not actually ever going back, it's sidestepping, because we've done all of this growth, we've done all of this learning, we have achieved all of these things. We're not going back to square one, we're not going back to the beginning. We're actually sidestepping, and we're going to start, whenever that may be, start up again. We're going to start with all of the knowledge that we have. And it's okay to take a breather. So
in that process of taking different side steps and working with your health, every time you try to move forward, something would either happen health wise or someone would do something and you'd have to take a sidestep, come back in and proceed, sidestep, come back. You talked about how you were trying to figure out yourself, like trying to figure out, who am I, what makes me tick, what am I afraid of, what do I not want to keep in my life anymore, how do I want to grow and develop as a young woman in society. Who were the most influential or crucial people that helped you? Like, how did you utilize people in your life to help you process who you were to be where you are now?
Great question. At the time, I didn't really realize. I felt like it's metaphor time. you may know I speak two languaes, English and metaphors. Like, yes. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Facts, she does.
But did you ever do swimming lessons at school?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Did you ever have to do a lesson where you had to dive into the pool fully clothed?
No.
And you had to, we did that in Australia. I don't know if that's just an Australian
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I did swimming lessons at the YMCA, so I don't know.
Okay, sure.
That's like, we didn't
well, there was a part of the swimming lesson at the end of the course, I guess, where you would be asked to bring a full, like, they would say, wear denim or wear jeans or a sweater and stuff like that, and now jump in the water, and you have to tread water and like get to safety, because sometimes, you know, you might fall in the water fully clothed, and you have to know how to, survive. Yeah. So that's your face.
I love that. That's amazing.
Anyway, so now you understand that. So when I was in my early stages of transitioning from full-time job, safety net, to I don't know what I'm doing, entrepreneurship, stepping into my purpose, all of the unknown, I kind of felt like I had just jumped into a pool fully clothed, but I wasn't given the training. So when you do those swimming lessons, that's kind of like the graduation thing. You're like, well, if you can survive the water fully clothed, you'll be fine. It's like I didn't know that it was coming. Like, I knew that I had quit my job. I knew that I was going into a space that was saturated. There are so many people who are, you know, influencers and inspirational speakers, and on social media especially, and in particular within our generation, there's a lot of millennials that are just really into inspiring everybody. And I was like, I'm going to do that too. So I didn't really understand the depth of what it would take. And because of that, I actually didn't realize that I needed to have mentors or surround myself with people who had done it before. So I was just kind of floundering for a while. As I said, I had this traumatic experience where I lost somebody who was quite influential in my life. But looking back, I can say that that person was the catalyst for who I am today, because I had to undo all of what this person had said about me and rebuild. I connected with my family, but I could only do it to an extent, because I was leading a lifestyle that was very high risk in their eyes. My family is all about, you know, the safety of a 9-to-5 job, and you go and study, and which is absolutely fine. It just never sat well with me.
Right.
So, of course, to leave the comfort of a job, to leave safety, security, consistency, and dive into something that I not only didn't really know what I was doing, but I didn't really have anybody around me to help guide and take me under their wing. Looking back was definitely, in my family's eyes, a stupid move. And so I just kind of navigated, and I'm grateful that along the way I met key people who would stay for a season, and I would learn something from them. And then today, one of my best friends is a speaker, an activist, and she has helped me, not in the professional sense, but in the spiritual and emotional sense, just really stepping into my power as a woman, stepping into my power as a leader, and being comfortable with who I am. And it hasn't been through, you know, sitting down, having mentor sessions, you know, like, oh, let's have a call, let's jump on a call and let's go through these things. It was literally, I moved in with her, I watched her live, and I was given the space and the safety to experiment and be like try on different versions of myself, because I think that's the other thing. I came from a small city. I say small city. I come from a place called Adelaide, so it's not tiny. There's probably 2 million people that live there, but in comparison to larger cities. Okay, no, I know you're rolling your eyes.
She literally 2 million. No, it's really super small. It's not that big of a deal.
But I've also lived in Sydney and Los Angeles, so they're a lot larger, and everybody knows everybody. And you know what? I'm gonna sidestep that one.
Yeah, let's sidestep. Me and my small town in Kentucky, and she's 2 million. It's like really basic.
But there wasn't a lot that I felt that I could connect with in Adelaide, so that's why I moved away. Yes, so essentially I moved in with a friend who lives in Los Angeles. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'll give you the backstory. I went to LA to write a Strong Woman book. I was there for 3.5 weeks. I did not write the book. I ended up hanging out with my friend and doing all the things and having lots of fun. And at the end of those 3.5 weeks, I decided that I was going to be in the entertainment industry. So what happens, goes to LA once, it's like, I'm an actor. But it kind of, I laugh about it and I joke about it, but it also makes all of the sense, because as a child, all I would do was go to the library and find monologue books and read them and rehearse them. I would go and find foreign language tapes and CDs and try and memorize them. I was always performing, but I put it all to the side because that was a lifestyle that I had access to. And I also had a lot of confidence issues. As I said earlier, I was like, oh, the fat girl doesn't ever get to do this kind of thing. And I had some prominent people in my life in high school say to me, look, maybe just focus on getting an actual job, because my 5-year plan is to go and study dance, study acting, keep my singing lessons, and I'm going to be a triple threat and I'll go to Broadway. That was my plan. And I had people say to me, look, probably not, that you don't really have access to that. It's probably not going to happen. So I understand that they're wanting to keep me safe and guide me, but that kind of forced me to bury all of those dreams and bury that version of myself. And then going to LA 3 years ago, spending time with my friend, seeing her operate in her fullness and her give me permission to be my crazy, wild, childish self. She's like, who did you want to be when you were 8? I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to be on stage and bring people joy and make people laugh and use my platform to just make people happy. And she said, okay, well, that's what I do. That's what you can do. You didn't realize it at the time. That's kind of who you're supposed to be. That's your identity. And I realized that who I was when I was a child actually isn't just baby Shauna. That's who I am at my core. All those things I was interested in, all the things that I wanted to do and play with and engage with, that's actually what I want to do as an adult. And the cool thing is I live in 2020 with social media, with internet access, with amazing technology where that is a reality. So for me, one of the largest influences of this season has been my best friend, who I always tell her this. She didn't give me the key to unlock my purpose. She guided my hand because I already had the key.
Wow.
And I think a lot of the time when we are trying to search for our purpose, I would love to know, I would love to be able to sit back and look at all the generations, our parents' generation, grandparents, great-grandparents, and see if there genuinely was this desire to find your purpose and find meaning, or if that was just a minority and how the minority has grown. And now, obviously, our generation, it's the focus. Mm-hmm. We all have 14 different jobs before we settle down. Obviously not everybody, but a lot of people I know, they study, they get a job, and they're like, actually, I'm not happy. I'm going to go do something else. Mm-hmm. Or they don't settle down for a little bit. So it really depends. But I would love to know what all the generations looked like before us, and if we just have decided to shake things up. Because I feel really blessed to be in a generation, in a time where I not only have access to all the things we have access to, technology-wise, money-wise, science-wise, like everything, but I also have the safety to make mistakes. Like, and also it comes down to, I live in a pretty phenomenal country. Australia is amazing. If I decide to do this and then it doesn't work, I can go back and get another job. Like, there are jobs aplenty. Like, I won't talk too much on that because I think our countries are very different at the moment in particular. But I am pretty blessed to be in a country that there are so many opportunities. So I think that's also why I had the courage to do what I did, because I do have a degree under my belt. I can go back and be a teacher. Everything fails. But I knew that my calling was greater than my desire to remain safe. Yeah, another thing I wanted to say is, in the early stages of me leaving my job, I was very much into the fake it till you make it. And 4 years in, how do you also, I'm going to flip the table real quick. What do you think of fake it till you make it?
What do I think about fake it till you make it? I feel like I am the master of fake it till you make it. Like, I feel like, I mean, okay, you know my family. Like,
I love your family.
Thank you. I love my family too. And from a very, I'm talking about 4 years old, 5 years old, something in me thought that I was probably in the wrong family. Like, just from what I was assessing, I was like, Kevin is like the bomb.com. Dad is like this superstar doctor. Everyone loves my mom. And then obviously baby Kellen is so smart. I don't understand him. And here I am. And I'm like, I make people laugh. Like, you know, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really have a real talent, except everyone thinks I'm funny. So, like, how did I end up here? And so, like, I internalized that I had to fake confidence in order to keep up with the Joneses, aka the Alushalas, you know? And so I just, like, I just operated my life in such a way that I needed to not allow people to see that I may not be living up to the name. So, like, that's all I knew to do. And it's a petrifying thing to do, because you feel like one small wrong move and your entire plan will be revealed. So you kind of just like, okay, like, yeah, I'm totally capable of doing this. And inside you're going, I'm not able to do any of that. But that's what they think. So keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. And in your quiet time, in your private time, it's like, I can't keep up with this. I feel like my life is falling apart. I have to pretend like the Jenga wall is not about to crumble upon me. And I feel like I'm dying inside. Like, I don't know how else to, like, say that, especially when you do it for so long. You know, you're running a marathon that you feel like you've never actually trained for, but everyone thinks you did. So you're, like, trying to fake breathing well and, like, not sweating like a pig, and you're about to collapse amongst the people. So, yeah, faking it till you make it, I think it has its purpose, but there's like a level where it's not
sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable, and it's not healthy anymore. Like, you know, there's only so much faking you can do. Especially, I feel like fake it till you make it is really only helpful when you're trying to when your goal is to become what you're trying to fake versus hide who you think you can't be.
Wow. Yeah.
That was where I didn't realize that. Like, I was just trying to fake being something that I thought was never actually attainable for myself. So it was just a cover up versus I'm going to fake it until it becomes me, and I'm going to have to remind myself over and over that yes, I am able to be the person that I desire for myself, that other people desire for me, and it's okay for me to run after that, and it's okay for me to not believe it right now, but it's not okay for me to stay there. Those are two different levels of faking it till you make it, and one is destructive to your spirit, and the other one can be very helpful to your spirit. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm similar. But I was not conscious of the fact that I was faking it. So growing up in my family, lots of love, lots of laughs. Like my family is very similar to me. Like, you know, my mom. Oh, you know my mom.
We
my
love
mom
her.
is like me.
She's
We
the
love
sweetest.
Meg.
She's
Shout out to
hilarious.
Meg.
We love you, Meg.
My brothers are really similar to me. So I didn't really identify that I didn't fit in, but I knew that I was a little different. And it wasn't until, because I had this thing that was drawing me out. And as I said, like I needed to get out of Adelaide. And there were a number of reasons why I felt like I needed to get out of Adelaide. But more than that, I just kept saying to myself, I will find my purpose when I leave here. And as a very small child, I saw myself as living in a foreign land. Like I also thought that my mother was actually Julie Andrews. And I also thought that I was going to marry a prince.
Hey,
so I'm not sure where they
the worst gig.
Listen, my man is going to be a king. So.
Hey, girl, you bet. You heard it right here, Jesus. We marrying some kings. Hey. That's right. Don't throw that dream away.
But I do recall some of my earliest memories that I was going to be living abroad. And so I was like, I just have to get out of Adelaide. And then it wasn't until I separated myself from everyone that I knew and everything that seemed familiar that I was able to recognize, like, oh, you had a facade on, and it wasn't from a negative space. I just didn't know any different. And so then when I was able to just experiment, be myself, play, and again, this has been a process. Like I moved away from Adelaide in 2013. We're in 2020 now. Like that was like the start of me discovering who I was. But I didn't realize I was faking it. And then as I started to spread my wings, develop my interests more away from, you know, what was familiar to me, I realized that I was coming up against the challenge of going back home and visiting family and friends and them not adjusting to the new version of you. And it's not really the new version of you. That version of you's always existed inside of you. You just have been given space to experiment and to use it. I kind of liken it to having like a paint palette. So you have all of the colors of the paints, and when you're at home with your family, with your friends in the safety of it, you might just use like 3 or 4 different colors. You may not have the need for anything else. And then when you move away, you are required, or you might desire to experiment with new colors or mix colors and do that. And that's not recognizable to people who knew a version of you. So for me, one of the great things as well has been being okay with being the fullest expression of myself, even if that is difficult for family and friends to see. Now, I'm making it sound dramatic. It's not dramatic. Like I'm still the same me, like I'm still funny, but like valuing different things. I still value all the things I used to, but I have expanded. So I've lived around the world now. I care about X, Y, Z, and I wasn't even aware of those things before. So my family and friends knew an expired version of me. And for a while, I would play that when I went home. I would be like, okay, I'm back home. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And it just was exhausting. It wasn't sustainable. And so I just had to be okay with being the fullest expression of myself. And that, just to give you context, that specifically looked like being super present on social media. Previously, I would like upload a picture or whatever. Now, I'm on my stories every day. I'm going live every day. And that was not received well by a lot of people that I grew up with, because they're like, oh, she's so vain, she went to Hollywood, she's changed. And I didn't like that feedback, so I would just revert back to who I was, like being quiet and a little bit more shy and boisterous, but not present on social media as much. But as I said, it wasn't sustainable and it wasn't true to who I was. I felt like I was robbing myself of all of the work that I had done.
Wow.
And not honoring all of the ground I'd covered. So now I show up as a fullest expression of myself, down to like, if I upload a photo of me in my workout gear in a crop top showing my tummy, previously that was not well received in my family, because it was flaunting and it was being, you know, suggestive and whatnot. The reason I do what I do and that I'm so passionate about being myself is because I grew up without seeing that. I grew up being ashamed of my body. I grew up being shy. And if I had a me to look up to on social media, like if I followed Shauna when I was 16, 17, I wouldn't have had to have done all of the work and all of the undoing, because there were many untruths that I had adopted as my identity, if that makes sense. So I had to do all of the work, and now because I've done all of the work, I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to try and shrink back into a space or into a box that people once knew me as.
Yep.
Just because it's comfortable for them. I'm not offensive. Yes. I'm not any of those things, but I'm certainly not going to bend myself because you aren't able to understand this new version of myself. It's not a new version. I always existed inside of myself. Yeah. I just wasn't given the space to spread my wings, and that is fine. There is no animosity towards that.
Right.
Like I just had to move away, spread my wings, find out who I was, and now come back into these spaces as a bigger version of myself for baby Shauna, for my little sister, for my cousins, for my friends who are my age, who I went to high school with, who are unhappy in their marriage or unhappy in their jobs. Or I have done all the work that I have because I wanted to pave a new way for people so they could see that they're not stuck.
Girl.
So yeah, that's why I do what I do. Yeah. And it's been challenging. It's been so challenging. But I've never felt more alive. I've never felt more true. I've never felt more connected spiritually. And it's cool because my coming into my power, although it's taken a moment for people to adjust, like people who I grew up with to adjust, I can see that they're now taking cautious steps, but steps nonetheless, into the unknown. Cute. Frozen.
Into the unknown. Like.
But I can see that my bold moves have not been in vain. They haven't been just to serve me.
Yeah.
And that's always what my goal has been. My goal has been to be a light so people can feel comfortable to be themselves. Like, I am as crazy, unfiltered as I am on social media because that's who we are behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And if you can't be that behind closed doors, then there's a problem. And there's a lot of people who don't feel that they can be themselves in front of family and friends, or even by themselves. Like they get ashamed of their clumsiness or their dress sense or their taste in music. And I want to use my platform to be able to like obliterate all of those standards and say, no, you are perfect as you are. Like, whatever you're interested in is great. However you exist in the world is great, as long as it is, you know, producing good and love, obviously. But yeah, I'm kind of navigating that and striving towards that. And the cool thing is, as I said at the start, like I was faking it until I made it and it wasn't sustainable. And the reason I was faking it is because I didn't feel qualified. I didn't feel like I had the tools. I knew that's what I was supposed to be doing, but I was kind of putting the cart before the horse, and I'd forgotten. And again, I don't know what people's faith is. There's a quote, maybe Christine Caine said it, but I'm sure like everyone said it, and maybe even be in the Bible. I don't know. But God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And I completely ignored that. I was like, okay, so I've quit my job in Jesus' name. I'm going to go and inspire people. And I kind of was doing it from a facade place. And I'd forgotten that, no, you've been called to do this. You're going to be given all the tools. Right. So as soon as I surrendered and like went through all the learning, went through all the digging deep, went through all the restructure, and then I was like, oh, right. Like I actually don't have to know what I'm doing. I know my destination.
Yes.
But and because I'm such a control freak, I'm such a I like to organize everything. I like lists, I like plans, I like discipline. Hence why I was a teacher.
Yes.
I would have like my end goal in mind, which is like, I'm going to be a light, I'm going to be joy. And this is how I'm going to get there. I had to release the control on how I was going to get there. Like, be obsessed with the destination, but not how you get there.
To hear the rest of this episode, tune in next week here on First Paso.